interesting.
Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Advisory Board meeting Thursday, November 8, 2018. This meeting is being televised Charter, Spectrum, Channel 180, and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. It will air daily at 1 p.m. with an additional airing on Thursday at 7 p.m. A video is available on demand on the county website. Please turn off all cell phones and laptops and set them on vibrate. Anyone wishing to speak tonight, please fill out a public hearing speaking card. A total of 10 minutes will be allowed for anyone in favor of a case and 10 minutes for anyone in opposition of a case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they must share in a 10-minute slot. When you are speaking, please face the board and not the audience. If you turn to speak to the audience, the board will assume you are finished and call the next speaker. We will now hear the invocation and prayer by Mr. Barr.
Thank you. Let's go to prayer, please. Lord, we want to thank you for your hand in our great nation, the United States of America. With the latest elections, we are very blessed and very honored to live in such a republic. We ask you to be with your hand in this meeting tonight, that you can give us patience, give us guidance, that each and every one can be heard and have good discussions and a good outcome. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion. Do I have a second to approve the minutes? Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have any comments from staff?
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well, in that case, we will move to the first case.
Case number RZ-18-15, Hillaby Grove LLC of Carrollton, Georgia, request a rezoning from PD, Planned Development, to MU, Mixed Use, for property located on Lester Mill Road at Bill Gardner Parkway and land lots 182, 203, and 204 of the 2nd District. The property consists of 84 plus or minus acres, and the request is for mixed residential and commercial development. The property is located in Commission District 2 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Board members.
Evening.
The request before you tonight is a property that's located on Bill Gardner Parkway at the intersection with Lester Mill, and it's illustrated in your overhead and also in your exhibit books outlined in green. The subject property is actually zoned PD, Planned Development, and this is a legacy district that is recognized by our current Unified Land Development Code. The PD Planned Development District for this property consists of both commercial and office, and the approval was for development that was so intensive that it required evaluation by the State Department of Community Affairs as a development of regional impact. So the request before you tonight is to rezone from this intensive commercial and office development to MU, or mixed use, for a mixed residential and commercial development. So the current future land use map illustrates the subject property in purple as mixed use. The applicant's site plan shows an extensive development with a mixture of uses, and this is preliminary and conceptual. You'll notice that there in red are 2 mixed-use buildings with residences above retail, and what's being proposed is a total of 300 loft-style multifamily units above a commercial retail development. Also, there is extensive green space, green infrastructure, amenities. There's at least one water feature that's illustrated, community buildings. There's a forest of fruit trees with walking trails and so forth. On the Lester Mill side, there's an area of the proposed development with brownstone-style townhouses. So they're requesting 20 brownstone-style townhouses. Also, toward the rear of the property, toward the creek, they're also proposing up to 20 single-family residential lots. So this development includes single-family, multifamily, brownstones, residences above retail. So it's a nice mix of commercial and residential. The areas that are illustrated in the gold color, those three areas, they're designated as flex space, so nothing particular at this time, and perhaps the applicant could tell us a little bit more about that. But because our policy guide, our future land use map calls for mixed use, we do recommend approval of the applicant's requests with the conditions that are in our staff report and your exhibit books. And just to give a quick rundown, most of these conditions are regarding transportation, but also the fact that the applicant has stated that this development is intended to meet the intent of the Highway Corridor Overlay District, even though it's not in the Highway Corridor Overlay District. So we recommended a condition that would accomplish that. And also a series of conditions that would guarantee that this development would not meet the thresholds of a development of regional impact that would otherwise cause a requirement for an evaluation by the State Department of Community Affairs. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you, Stacy. Does the board have any questions for staff? Anyone? Okay. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Zach Murray. I'm a resident of McDonough, Georgia. I am representative of Hillaby Grove, as well as one of our high-profile citizens who are in partnership with making this development happen. The flex space, just to expound a little bit further, we are looking to do a all-green community to show to be eco-friendly and kind of add to the whole area as a whole. We have been in conversations with a lot of higher-end grocers. At this point, we would have to decide which one, but that's all conditional based upon our decision here in the rezoning.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I do. You mentioned the grocers, high-end, and you have retail space in there, correct?
We do.
And so what are you thinking in terms of retail as far as vision, what you would see as far as retail?
Things that support everyday life, you know, to make things more convenient, whether it's a high-end salon, whether it's a mom-and-pop restaurant. Queen Bee has expressed some interest in joining that property, things that are really community-oriented and would support that area.
And the fruit forest.
Yes.
Chuckling, it's kind of an unusual term. So a fruit forest, I'm guessing,
Yeah, a
is
fruit forest.
a grove of fruit trees, or?
Yes, a fruit forest, I guess probably one of the closest examples in our area would be Serenbe. Not sure if you heard of that property, but a fruit forest is where your landscaping and everything actually produces vegetation. So you could walk and you could pick blueberries. You could walk, there would be peach trees that actually get harvested and all those things just to support that particular community.
And then you have a landscaper or someone to maintain that?
Yes, it would be maintained by a management company.
So you have a community association
Absolutely.
and pay dues to cover that. That's interesting.
Any additional questions for the applicant? At this time? Okay. If not, at this time, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the case. Okay. If no one's coming forward, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone speaking in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jenny Little, 810 Lester Mill Road in Locust Grove. As I was telling the people here earlier, I'm not really opposed or for it. We're just concerned because I've been to enough of these that I know it's going to happen. So all I can do is just let you know, as a neighbor, this property is at the end of my driveway. So we just have some concerns. I don't want to take up all the time. I was speaking with a couple other neighbors that were not able to come tonight, so they asked me to express their concerns also. What guarantee do we have that this project will be built according to the specifications shown? Because we've seen in the past that things got approved and then it didn't really go like the picture showed and all the bells and whistles and the pretty. So we're concerned about that. We would like to know some other projects that this company has done, because in doing some research, we can't find any track record on this company. Have the conditions already been met that were incorporated in the approval for Lester Mill Road since Eaglesbrook came in? You know, that's been several years ago, but we don't think that those things were done, you know, up till now, and we're continuing to add more large volume, you know, things down our road, and our road has not been fixed for all this volume of traffic. Is the money still been allotted for the traffic light that was implemented when Eaglesbrook was, you know, seeking to be approved? You know, what improvements are going to be made on the infrastructure at the intersection of Lester Mill Road and Bill Gardner, and at the end of Lester Mill Road, which turns into Greenwood and 155? Those two places are already just crazy to get in and out of. You know, are you guys going to, you know, have lights put in there? There's a lot of property around this property that's already been annexed into the city of Locust Grove. We're concerned, you know, has there been any communication with the city about annexation? These residents that are being talked about above the retail space, is that going to translate to apartments? The flex space, is that going to have to be approved, what they decide to build on that, before they're allowed to build on that? Or is it just left as whatever and they can do whatever when the time comes? And our last one is, he talked about a creek. That creek is our water supply. That's the county reservoir. And all this property drains down into that. So please consider that too. So those are just, you know, our concerns. You can address them as you may, but that's our biggest concerns there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak in opposition of the case? Come forward, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Keith Yester. Address is 485 Mallard Lane. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I live in Mallard's Air Park, and it's directly off of Bill Gardner Parkway. Traffic getting into and out of Bill Gardner Parkway is challenging at best. They're proposing to add 360 new homes in the general area, which traffic is just going to be unbearable. The more people you add to Bill Gardner Parkway, the worse it's going to get. So I'm genuinely opposed to this project. Additionally, with all the individuals that will be occupying these new homes, they're going to have to expand the schools. Expanding the schools in the county is going to cost us more money, which is going to increase our property taxes, which again, I'm genuinely opposed to. I don't think this is a good idea, and I don't think this is what we need to be doing.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Alex Hyatt, 172 Pintail Way, Locust Grove. And I also live in Mallard's Landing, have a son going to Bethlehem Elementary, and traffic to and from the school in rush hours, school hours, is terrible, coming down Lester Mill to Bill Gardner. One thing that really concerns us is the proposed housing size and the number of units at this location. Your minimum square footage is 1,800 for the houses. That's really not commensurate with what's already in the area. 2,000, 2,500 square feet might be more reasonable, and having more single-family houses instead of 300 loft apartments with, 40% of those apartments, 2 and 3 bedroom, the other 60, 1 bedroom. That may bring in a component of, I guess, residents that we don't want in this neighborhood. We like a family neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition of the case? We have additional time if anyone else would like to speak in opposition. Okay, if no one's coming forward, does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? All right, please come forward, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a question about the property that's adjacent to this. It's actually across the creek from the subject parcel, and it looks like that it wouldn't have any access through your property or any other properties. Have you taken that into account?
We have. And actually, we have taken into account to only use 25% to account for all of that density, and are willing to work with the T-Splosh in order to direct traffic. I know they are scheduled for a roundabout to go right there, and willing to accommodate all of that.
Okay, where's the roundabout going?
At the intersection of Lester Mill and Bill Gardner.
Okay, well, I was talking about the tract that's kind of triangular shaped. It's to the northeast, quadrant that's next to your property. It appears that it has no access,
Yeah, I didn't see any landlock, but I can take that into consideration for sure.
Okay, well, could you modify your plans to take that into account?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Mr. Richard, just to kind of clarify, the tract to the northeast of this particular proposal has a small portion of it that touches Lester Mill Road. That tract, if I am not mistaken, is part of the Henry County Water Authority and is majority floodplain. So with respect to whether or not it's buildable, floodplain is technically not buildable. It can be utilized for green space, but it cannot be buildable.
Up here at the Lester, yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm satisfied with the response.
This area here?
Yes.
Yes.
Right beyond? Yeah, that's all flood. That's not buildable either way.
Okay, so that's publicly owned property?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, all right. Okay, that takes care of that. Thank you.
absolutely.
Any additional questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I think we do. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go
Quick
ahead, Mr.
question about the traffic. Didn't I read in here, you're gonna have acceleration and lanes, turning lanes into your property?
Yes,
Okay.
for that reason. And we're willing to adjust according to the DOT project that's already planned. We're willing to adjust to what would work best. Also, this is a more higher end project. This isn't something, even the term apartments, that wouldn't fit what we're looking for. I would, even say if you would look at the competitive projects of Serenbe and other green communities, none of them would devalue an area. Matter of fact, it's increased it over 400% in property value by them being there.
Perhaps to help the first person that spoke out in opposition, about the company, Hillaby, and previous projects, where those are?
Right. I represent Shaquille O'Neal. We actually have multiple companies across the country. In order to do that, a good Google search of Shaquille O'Neal's development will probably solve all of those questions.
Okay.
Being that you made that statement, do you have additional properties here in Georgia?
No, this will be our first project here in Georgia.
And what states have you primarily been building?
New Jersey, Las Vegas. We've recently located and made this our home, which is, we definitely intend to have more, but New Jersey, Las Vegas, New York, California, a lot of Orlando as well.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Yes, I just have a question. I know earlier you had talked about the recreational areas that were going to be on the property. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes, the center area, it actually will be more an area as like a walking park, a biking trail, and somewhat of like a transportation infrastructure within the neighborhood in order to get to the different areas that it offers. Well-maintained, great picture taking, peaceful, nothing outrageous at all.
Okay, in addition to that, it looks like, are those going to be built up at the same time, or is it just the commercial park going to be started up first?
Actually, we haven't indicated where we would start first.
Because I noticed on some of those things it says future, which means that it's not going to be...
The flex spaces.
Right.
Which means we haven't really decided. There's a lot of conversations that have taken place. But for us, we want what fits best in the community. And until we get to a point to where we know what the community needs and how it would affect it, we wouldn't make those decisions.
Okay. I have just one question for staff then. Like on those flex properties there, if they put other building structures on there, would that change anything in the relations to whether that could be approved or not?
In your staff report, condition number 12, I believe, conditions this development to meet the intent of this actual conceptual plan dated September 24th, 2018 by Inspired Green. So as it relates to the conditions in those flex spaces, this property is limited to the amount of impervious space. One, because it sits on a piece of property that is part of our limited area of disturbance because of its proximity to the reservoir. And also, this property will have to make sure that it implements the 500-foot buffering requirement per code. So keeping that in mind, depending on the future decisions on how they will best utilize this site, will be limited by the conditions that limit the amount of impervious.
So that means they would have to come back to the board in order to... No?
No, it does not mean that.
Let's try this. For example, what does flex space in other locations look like? What could it possibly look like?
That
what
could
might
be
flex
Whole
space?
Foods. That could be another recreational. That could be a community entertainment center. But that's really dictated based off of the needs of that community.
And so how do you determine the needs of the community? You actually talk to the residents,
Absolutely.
You get the feedback.
Absolutely.
Mr. Richard.
Yes, this is a question for staff. This same tract was approved for a planned unit development back in 1999, and I wonder if you could kind of summarize for us a comparison of what was approved at that time versus what is being proposed now in terms of numbers of dwelling units, say, trip generation, and also commercial space, just some kind of rough comparison, if you will. So.
Mr. Risher, I'm not going to be able to give you specifics at this time. All I can tell you is that this planned development, they surpassed the threshold for review by the state. and that threshold is 300,000 square feet of non-residential space. This development, we were very diligent in recommending conditions that they would not exceed those same thresholds. So this development, if it's the pleasure of the board to go with our recommendation, they would not have 300,000 square feet of non-residential space, and they would not meet the threshold for residential, which is 400 dwelling units. And as a mixed-use development, they would not meet the threshold for the overall square footage, which was 400,000 square feet. So we tried to be very diligent in the conditions that we recommend.
Okay, I think what you're telling us in your report and also just now is that this is a much less intense development in terms of impact on the community than was the previous project had it been built.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right. Any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. I do have a question for the staff. Stacy, do we have any, do we actually have, I see DOT is not here, do we have any traffic studies and do we have any response from the Board of Education?
Yes. In your staff report, it should mention the response from the Board of Education. Also, as far as the traffic impact study goes, that will be required as a part of the development of this property. And as a matter of fact, a couple of the conditions that we have recommended would reiterate that. Not only would that traffic impact study be conducted, but that they would actually follow the recommendations of that traffic impact study.
Mr. Chair, if I could quickly chime in.
Okay.
Condition number 2 actually states.
Right. I see it now. Thank you so much, Dante. All right, thank you.
And we're willing to do that. Without a doubt, it'll affect our value as well, so we're willing to do that.
Thank you so much. All right. All right, any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, you may be seated, sir. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'd like to call the case, please.
Case number RZ-18-15, Hillaby Grove LLC of Carrollton, Georgia, request a rezoning from PD, Planned Development, to MU, Mixed Use, for property located on Lester Mill Road at Bill Gardner Parkway and land lots 182, 203, and 204 of the Second District. The property consists of 84 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a mixed residential and commercial development. This property is located in Commission District 2 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I do. I'll make a motion that the board goes with staff recommendation to approve this rezoning request, RZ 1815.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those, do we have any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-18-10, the Reservoir Group of Watkinsville, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to R2, Single Family Residence on Sewer, for property located on Crumbly Road in land lots 8 and 25 of the 11th District. The property consists of 86.5 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family subdivision. The property is located in Commission District 4, and we will be presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Neves, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair and board members. This rezoning request is for property located at 719 Crumbly Road at the northeast corner of Crumbly Road and Selfridge Road, as highlighted in green in the exhibit books and as seen on the overhead screen. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to R2 on Sewer for single-family residence for the development of a 100-lot residential subdivision on Sewer. So as you can see, the area directly surrounding the subject property is mostly zoned RA with a minimum of 1 acre lots, which is typical for properties on septic. However, this property benefits from access to sewer. Additionally, the applicant is proposing for the development to include at least 20 acres of open space, as well as a buffer that would surround the entirety of the development. The proposed development is in compliance with our comprehensive plan and the future land use map, which designates the property for low-density residential with a net density of 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. You can see the future land use map. It's highlighted it's the yellow area in your exhibit books. So due to its meeting the criteria of the future land use map, staff recommends approval of the request with 7 conditions. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff? Mr. Richard?
Could you show us where the sewer line is in relation to this property? And also, is there sufficient capacity in that sewer line to accommodate this number of dwelling units?
There is a letter from the Water and Sewer Authority, and that property does access from sewer. I don't have the map with me now, but I do believe the access is from the northern portion of the property.
Okay. I think it's at the northwest corner of the property.
I believe so.
Any additional questions? Any additional questions for the staff? Okay. No additional questions. We'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
It's Steve Moore, Moorbass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here tonight representing the Reservoir Group on this request. As she mentioned, it's 86.5 acres at the northeast corner of Selfridge Road and Crumbly Road. And our request is from RA to R2 with the option of putting the project on sewer. In around 2005, the sewer was installed, Mr. Risher. It is at the northwest corner of the site. And it does touch the property. And I believe otherwise, I'm sure lots of other projects, most of the development around it was built prior to that sewer line being installed, which is why they were developed like they were as 1 acre lots. Got just a different picture here. I'll show. So our proposed development plan provides 2 access points, one on Crumbly Road and one on Selfridge Road. We have worked this layout pretty much around the existing contours in an effort to really minimize the disturbance associated with the site, to try to preserve as much of the trees and the green space as possible. We do provide over 20 acres of open space within the project, as well as a 25-foot undisturbed buffer that runs the perimeter of the site, as well as along the frontage of the existing roadways. And then we've obviously have placed open space in some of the more environmentally sensitive areas. There's an existing pond here that would remain, as well as some 100-year floodplain that, again, is both of which are protected by some permanent open space, which will be owned and maintained by the HOA. With the fact that there is sewer on the property, our request is for R2 on sewer. The lots are 22,000 square foot minimum, 115 feet wide by approximately 190 foot deep, which is about 1/2 of an acre. Future land use map designates this area as low density residential, which by new definition is 1 to 2 units per acre. A lot of the adjoining properties are larger lots, but the gross density of our project, if you add the 20 acres of open space back into the number of lots, our gross density is approximately 1 unit per acre, which is very similar to the densities of those surrounding RA uses. We believe we've created 100 very nice, very appealing home sites, and this is an ideal location for these types of lots. We've read staff's report, understand that they agree that we are consistent with the future land use map and that they recommend approval of our request Further, we've read the zoning conditions and are agreeable to every one of those. So at this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
What size houses? If it's in here, I'm sorry. I missed it. Square
It's
footage?
not in the report, but our plan at this point is 2,500 to 4,000 square foot homes.
Any additional questions? Okay, I do have one question. Now, you mentioned the gross density. How did you derive that calculation?
If you take the total number of lots divided into the total number of acres, and we're just over one. It's like 1.09 or something units per acre.
And that's including?
That's just the total site area divided into 100 lots.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sod back and front? Front and back?
I'm sure that's the plan. I mean, probably not the entirety. I think typically the zoning conditions we've done in the last couple of years have been to the rear drip line of the house, the entire front and side and to the rear drip line of the house. Is that about right? So he said that to the rear is possible, but we had this issue on another zoning maybe a year ago, and that was the condition as it was worded on these were on 1 acre lots was to sod the entire backyard, which meant by definition that you had to clear all the trees to sod it. And so I think we actually put a condition that said, you know, the rear where vegetation is going to be removed or disturbed so that we didn't force somebody to cut trees down just to plant sod. So I think we'd be willing to agree to that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant? If not, you may be seated, sir.
Yes, sir.
At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. Okay, no one's coming forward. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Hi, my name is Jeff Dawes. I live at 761 Crumbly Road. Actually, that little house sticking right over there by the border is my home, which I purchased 2 years ago. And I am not opposed to a subdivision. Matter of fact, when I bought that property 2 years ago, I assumed that there would be a subdivision there. My issue is that all the houses around me are RA. So my assumption was that when I purchased that property and made the investment, that it would be, houses would be on 1 acre lots around me if that be the case. So with this proposal, of course, it's not, and you can see how that they all line up right up against my property. Matter of fact, my driveway coming off Crumbly Road right there is touching the property line. So basically, those homes would be right at my back door. And like I said, I'm not opposed to a subdivision, but my concern is them on a half-acre lot. And had I known that, I probably would not have purchased that property. And so that's my concern. The other concern that I have, again, you know, my neighbor who owns this, I wish him well, and I want him to sell that property. And again, the subdivision I'm not opposed to. It's the half-acre that I'm opposed to. Is that where this is coming out onto Crumbly Road right here, you'll notice how that it comes by my house, and then right there he's coming back out on Crumbly Road. Well, there's a curve right there, and there's a hill right above my driveway. Coming out of my driveway in the morning time, when rush hour is that I almost get run over myself coming out of there. So I'm concerned that if they put that entrance to the subdivision right there, that there's going to be a lot of accidents coming out, especially if I'm coming out of me or my daughter is coming out of our driveway, we're probably gonna get run over with the decel lane that will have to be in there. I'm assuming that they would have to put a decel lane in. So, I guess I have more questions than anything else. Is that again, I'm not being opposed to the subdivision, but being opposed to the half-acre lots is what I'm opposed to. The impact on Crumbly Road is the other question that I have. is that, you know, now when you leave during rush hour on Crumbly Road going out to 155, there's a huge traffic jam. So being that I'm not opposed to the subdivision, I would ask the county, what is its plan to do to widen that? We're getting a new subdivision already at the end of Crumbly now at 155. So that would be my question. What are we doing to prepare for this? Because that is going to, if that's 100 homes there, you're looking at another possibly 200 to 250 automobiles that'll be going down that road. So those are some of my questions. Again, I'm not opposed to a subdivision, but I am opposed to, you know, the half-acre lot. I don't know if there's another neighborhood around us that has that, and again, that's why I purchased that. And I wish, you know, I wish the subdivision well, but it's just, that's my concern.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition of the case? Okay. No one else? Do we have additional questions for the applicant? Okay, any additional questions for staff? Okay. If not, we'd like to call the case.
Case number RZ-18-10. The Reservoir Group of Watkinsville, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R2, single-family residence, on sewer for property located on Crumbly Road in land lots 8 and 25 of the 11th district. District. The property consists of 86.5 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family subdivision. The property is located in Commission District 4 and was presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Neves, Planner 1.
Heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that the board go with staff recommendation to approve this case, RZ-1810. I would like to add the condition we talked about with the developer, the sod in the rear, where feasible.
We've heard the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Richard. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? Let me see your hands again. Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-18-18. The Reservoir Group of Watkinsville, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to RM, multifamily, for property located on Mount Carmel Road in land lot 128 of the 7th District. The property consists of 27.303 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a multifamily residential development. The property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Neves.
Good evening again, Chair and board members. This rezoning request is for property located on the south side of Mount Carmel Road to the south of the intersection of Mount Carmel Road and Jonesboro Road, as highlighted in green in your exhibit books and on the overhead screen. This request is for a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to RM, multifamily residential, for the development of a 275-unit apartment complex. The developer has stated their intent to construct the development in a big house style. As you can see, the area surrounding the subject property is a diverse combination of residential, industrial, and commercial zoning districts. There is an apartment complex directly to the south of the subject property. It's the purple zone as shown on the zoning map. The proposed development is also in compliance with our comprehensive plan and future land use, which designates future land use map, which designates the property for high-density residential with a net density of 6 to 16 dwelling units per acre. Staff recommends approval of this request with 9 conditions as detailed in your exhibit books, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for staff? Will the applicant come forward, please? Again, state your name and address for the record.
Steve Moore, 1450 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Good evening again. Here representing the Reservoir Group on this application. We are, and I'm going to be brief, and I'm going to introduce another team member that's going to deliver a little bit more detail on this, but we are proposing an apartment community, gated apartment community on Mount Carmel Road. The project does have, and I have another rendering on this. So the project does propose, again, gated access directly off of Mount Carmel Road at this location right here. It's got a boulevard entrance that terminates into a central clubhouse and amenity center. We have do have some 100-year floodplain that is located at the very far southern end of the property, which is also where the existing sanitary sewer main is, the Henry County Water and Sewer Authority sewer main that essentially runs in this floodplain here, which is where we propose to access sewer. We have commercial zoning across the street. We have industrial zoning here. We back up to multifamily zoning and an active apartment complex here. This is the only portion of the property, I believe, that is unzoned, or that is zoned RA, but it lies adjacent to an MU zoned property that fronts Willow Lane. So it is in a very developed area and a lot of future plans for development in this area. We are under the threshold of the future land use map plan, which maximizes the density at 16 units per acre. We're proposing approximately 13.5 units per acre. We believe it is a great fit. It is in very convenient proximity to Interstate 75, very close proximity to shopping and restaurants, and we believe that, again, that the future land use map supports our request. We've read staff's report. We have no issues with the recommendations that go along with their recommendation for approval. And as I mentioned before, at this time I'd like to turn it over to Kelly Osborne with Humphreys and Partners Architects, who's going to present on the architectural style and theme of the project.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, Kelly Osborne, Humphreys and Partners Architects, 5350 Alpha Road, Dallas, Texas. Mr. Chairman and the board, thank you for allowing me to come speak this evening. My task here is to describe kind of the product type that we're going to be doing today. I do have a PowerPoint to show you. Here's your assistance on getting the slides to start.
Oh, you have to start the show.
Okay. Yeah, start the view.
I don't know how to do it. So slideshow, start the view.
Yep, there you go.
From the beginning.
Thank you, sir. All right. The Big House concept is a product that our firm copyrighted 25 years ago. The reason we came up with the Big House, it was designed to look like a single-family home. The purpose of it was to create a product in the multifamily space that would be compatible in residential communities. And what I have today is to talk about the product type, walk you through the concept and the design, and a little bit about what we've done with it nationally. We have about 250 of these projects built nationally around the country in the last 25 years. What's unique with this product type is the design itself. It's 100% efficient from a gross to net standpoint, so it's very efficient to build from a cost standpoint. The product, there's no common space, so when you pull into your garage, you walk directly into the unit just like you do in a single family or a townhome. So no common space helps the developer on the operations side, but at the same time, it's beneficial from the public side from a security standpoint. So you walk into your garage, shut your door, straight into your unit. The safety and security we know is a big issue and with inconvenience with apartments, so this product type would address that. The product over the years has ideally been attracted to a variety of the community, millennials, empty nesters, and our informal study shows typically it doesn't target school-age children. On average, you get about 5 kids, typically non-school age, in a project, averages 250 units. So what's been unique, we didn't stress the schools that we're in when we built this product type. It's an elevated product type to where it's a higher end product to where you're trying to capture the really broad demographic, whether it be older millennials all the way to the empty nesters. You can have a young family in there as well, but the goal is to capture a broader target market segment so we can lease up the product and typically stay a lot longer. It's transitional housing in the fact that they can maybe afford to buy, but they choose to rent, or the renter by choice tag that we know about. At the same time, it just creates a place where if you move to the area, you may not want to buy. I need some elbow room. I don't want to mow the yard. We've created an alternative product for that. Now, what I have here these are isometrics of the floor plans, first floor and second floor. But in color coding, you pull into the garage right here, and this is your flat on the back. The way the concept is set is pretty straightforward. 3 ground floor units, 3 stacked directly above it, 4 units over the garage. This is our most common product type. I get variations over the years that this is adapted from, but this is the most commonly used. We have a 2-car garage side by side that goes up to the bigger unit on the corner with the units here. It would hit the second floor. Basically, the unit mirror flips down the center, so you pull into the ground floor here, straight into your unit. And as you were to come into the yellow units that you'll see left and right, they hit the 2 units out over the garage. So again, just going to run through some of the different product types that we built throughout the country, just to give you a sense of these are all built so you get an idea of the sense of style. What you're looking at is the same basic footprint. It's just I've reskinned the elevations to match indigenous styles to different parts of the country. We do have 4 of these built in Georgia. With our firm being based out of Dallas, we do have 14 U.S. offices, of which we have a small footprint in Atlanta. We're about 350 staff nationally, a little bit international. The last 2 years, I guess based on volume of work, we're the largest multifamily architect in the U.S., of which this prototype that only we can do because it's copyrighted as a registered copyright, and a few other ones, gives us a unique advantage over our competitors in that we have a unique product only we can do. So if a developer wants to do this product type, they have to come to us. And I'll just flip through some of these projects we've done throughout the country, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Richard.
I'd like to see if you could give us the breakdown in terms of numbers of units and also percentage-wise on the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. And then also, if you could tell me how many of these apartment units would be handicapped accessible to meet ADA requirements.
Sure, that'll be easy. On the ADA, we have to meet building code, obviously, so we'll meet the current building code, either 2% to 5% for ADA. Obviously, 100% ground floor has to be meet fair housing. Obviously, no elevators, so second floor is exempt. Only the ground floor will be met the code. On the current unit mix, a market study is being performed, but what we've shown here today is that we have about 60% ones, 20% twos, and the balance being 3. So 80% ones and twos, and the balance being the 3 bedrooms currently. The square footages range from 700 to 1,500 feet.
And the number of ADA units, again, would be how much?
2% of the overall.
Okay, 2% you said?
If building code's 2 or 5, it varies back and forth. We're still in the early on design stage, but we would meet building code.
Okay, okay, and just also just a question for staff. You know, we're now operating under a new, you know, plan that was adopted by this board and also the commissioners. And the plan is both a land use plan, but also a strategy plan for different areas. And I think that this site falls within what is referred to in the plan as the Henry Global Gateway, which I believe it makes a policy statement that actually it discourages single-family homes in locations such as this, you know, near I-75 and near commercial and other high-density areas. Is that true, or is that a fact?
Mr. Richard, the Global Gateway is anchored in our industrial hub, which is closer to Locust Grove, the Bill Gardner I-75 intersection and surrounding area. This particular site is part of our future land use that designates high density. And it also kept in mind the mixture of uses that surround this property, from commercial to a planned development that incorporates multifamily. So the actual trend in this area is indicative of this type of development, which caused us to project through year 2040 that this site is likely to develop high density. But the Global Gateway is a little further south on I-75.
Okay, and on the land use map itself, what kind of density does it show?
Up to 16 for high density.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions for the applicant?
I do. I have a question about the amenity package actually added as a condition by staff.
Mm-hmm.
Were you originally not planning to add pool or clubhouse?
We were. I think just the initial site plan didn't have it shown.
I see.
As we evolved and developed the plan, the current plan that was shown here did show a clubhouse and a pool. We do plan on having all those activities. We do probably the only thing on the recommendation that we looked at here was maybe looking at the, perhaps the, definitely doing the fitness center, the dog park, pedestrian pass, activity center, club, and pool. The tennis court, probably not. The playground, probably not. If we need to, we can, but we're not targeting school-age children for this development primarily. But there's room to allow for it if we do need it.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions for the applicant? If not, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for those speaking in favor of this case. Anyone would like to speak in favor of it? If not, we would like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. I don't see anyone coming forward. Does the board have any additional questions for the applicant or staff?
I do.
Okay.
I would like to know if the applicant has considered adding a secondary emergency access, one that could just have a gate that could be broken by the fire department if they need to, have access for any kind of emergency.
Yes, sir, we have. We've talked about that, and I believe we've, can you switch back to the? Talked about a entrance with a Knox box type breakaway thing in this location right here. But yes, we have considered that and are willing to do that if that's
okay.
Now, being that you say that, I asked, now is that the most feasible place for it, or is just within code?
Well, there's obviously limited road frontage that we have. It may be that by the time this property develops, or by the time this develops, there may be activity on this property, and we could, join with that as far as providing access if there's happens to be, a public street that gets developed as part of that project, then we could certainly move it. But the bottom line is we're absolutely willing to put one somewhere where we can get to the road, wherever it is on the frontage.
Okay. So the overall plan, it will have one. correct?
I'm sorry?
It will have.
An emergency exit?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Our fire department and DOT.
That location is pretty much away from the curve in Mount Carmel Road. However, it should be subject to approval by the fire department.
Yes, sir. And it's just it's only for purposes of emergency access.
Yes.
Any additional questions? Okay, you may be seated, sir. At this time, I'd like to call the case.
RZ-18-18, the Reservoir Group of Watkinsville, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RM Multifamily for property located on Mount Carmel Road and Land Lot 128 of the 7th District. The property consists of 27.303 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a multifamily residential development. The property is within Commission District 3 and was presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Neves, Planner 1.
Thank you, Linda. We've heard the case. We have a motion.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the rezoning from RA to RM multifamily with several conditions. One, that the breakdown of one-bedroom homes out of the total number of units would be 60%, and then 40% for 2 and 3 bedrooms, and also with the provision that there would be an emergency breakaway access point subject to public safety approval by Henry County.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a second. All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-18-17. The Pacific Group of Atlanta, Georgia requests the rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for property located at 1007 Flippin Road and Land Lot 11 of the 6th District and Land Lot 6 of the 12th District. The property consists of 168.51 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential and townhouse development. The property is located in Commission District 5 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootsil, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Good evening.
board members. The request before you tonight is a property that's located on Flippin Road, right at I-75. You may be familiar with the underpass there. This is the west side of I-75, and the subject property is outlined in green on the overhead and also in your exhibit books. The property is zoned RA, Residential Agricultural. The request is for RS, which is Residential Suburban. And that's kind of an unusual request, but Residential Suburban Zoning District allows for a mixture of single-family homes and also multifamily homes. And in this case, it's a mixture of single-family and townhouses. You'll notice from the overhead and also in your exhibit books that this property is surrounded by properties that are developed. So for example, to the west and to the north, the subject property abuts the Monarch Village planned development in the city of Stockbridge. Also on the east side of Flippin Road in the vicinity of the subject property, there's a golf course development, and we have a R3 single-family residential subdivision to the south of the subject property. The future land use map indicates the subject property for medium density residential uses as indicated in the gold color. And the corresponding net density for medium density residential is up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The applicant's request is for just under this minimum at 5.9. The survey of the subject property shows existing agricultural buildings, and the site plan for the development shows amenity areas. It shows 50% of the site as open space and common area. It includes a substantial buffer surrounding the subject property. Closer to I-75 is the pod that includes the townhouses. So we're looking at one pod of townhouses at 130 homes. We're looking at 2 areas of single-family development of 130 lots each for a total of 390 dwelling units in the preliminary conceptual site plan. Because our policy guide, the future land use map, supports the applicant's request, staff does recommend approval with several conditions. And the nature of the conditions are regarding traffic, regarding the open space, regarding keeping this development below the threshold, which would otherwise require evaluation by the State Department of Community Affairs. It also requires that the property be developed in substantial conformity with the applicant's site plan that they have illustrated. And I'd be pleased to answer questions.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
Yes, I have a couple questions, Stacy. In terms of the townhomes and the single family, do you know the square footage of each?
I do not have that square footage. I do not think that it was proposed, but it would be an excellent question for the applicant.
Thank you. All right, that's it. That's
Any
all I
other
have.
questions for staff? No? All right, we'll ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record again, please.
Good evening again. Steve Moore, Moorbass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. And I am here tonight representing the Pacific Group on the application before you. As Stacy mentioned, we have a 168.5 acre site. The site is located on Flippin Road at the northwest intersection of Flippin Road and I-75, across the street from across the road from the Rum Creek driving range golf course area. We are bordered by a lot of residential on the north, on pretty much all 4 sides with the exception of I-75. Our proposed layout is very compatible and consistent with those projects. Our request is to rezone to RS, residential suburban, and we are proposing 390 lots, as Stacey mentioned, in 3 different pods of development. The townhome pod, which is shown in the orange color, we've intentionally placed kind of closest to the interstate corridor there. That project has 130 units. Those will be fee simple, single family attached townhomes with public streets. The pod that is immediately north of that, that's shown in yellow, those lots are 62 feet wide. Those lots, there's also 130 of them. And then the lighter green pods, which is broken up into two sections, those lots are 72 feet wide. So we've got 2 entrances onto Flippin Road. We have the northernmost entrance would feed the townhome section first, and it kind of flanks, those 2 entrance roads flank the proposed amenity center. Let me just grab my pointer. So we have an entrance proposed here and an entrance proposed here with the amenity center in between. That amenity center will consist of a clubhouse, junior Olympic sized swimming pool, a playground, a dog park, sidewalks, and then we had a basketball court shown on our original concept that I believe is in your packet. And after further discussions, we've decided to convert that to an open-air pavilion with some additional walking space in that area. We're also proposing a multi-use field and soccer field in this far west-end side of the property with nature trails that run through the open space that connect the amenity centers through the open space and then into the project. The RS zoning district that's in the county's ordinance requires 2 of 3 different uses, which is why we have the townhome use blended in with the single family. It requires, I think, 2 of 3 uses. And you can either do duplexes and townhomes or single family, but we've chosen those 2 uses. In addition, those standards require a minimum of a 7,260 square foot lot, but all of ours exceed that minimum square footage that's required. It also has a minimum lot size for the single-family component of 60 feet wide, where our lots are 62 and 72 feet wide, again, just to provide a variety of product and a couple of different price points. We proposed a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of the site, especially along 75 and Flippin Road. Those buffers, in addition to just setting that area aside, will also be heavily landscaped to try to cut down on and screen both the interstate from the project and the project from the interstate and from Flippin Road. In all, the project does propose 84 acres of open space. There is about 20 acres of that open space that's actually high and dry buildable property. There is some floodplain on the property, but there's a good portion of it that is developable and buildable property. So we've protected the environmentally sensitive areas, we've protected the streams and the floodplain, we've provided the buffers around the perimeter for screening, and but again, it's usable open space, even though some of it may be in the floodplain. It's definitely usable for recreational areas. As Stacy mentioned as well, the future land use map designation of up to 6 units per acre. We're just shy of that if you measure it on the net density calculation. But like I said, there's 25 acres of open space that is perfectly developable, good property that we could choose to expand into. But if you took that 25 acres of developable property that's not in the floodplain, you added it to the developable area for your density calculation, we're more like 4.3 units per acre instead of, bumping the ceiling of the 6 units per acre. But we chose to take that property and just enhance the open space areas. We believe our request is consistent and compatible with the adjoining properties and the developments that surround us. And we believe that we've met the intent of the county's vision with the future land use map and for their vision for this site. We've read staff's report. We understand they've recommended approval of our request. We have a couple of requested changes to the conditions that are outlined in their report, and it's really only 2. Item number 3 requires as a condition that 50% of the open space, or 50% of the gross acreage be dedicated as open space. While this application and this plan does provide that, it's still early in the game. We haven't done the detailed design, and there may be just some item that is unforeseen that just says, we need to make this area bigger or whatever. So we're requesting that maybe that condition be amended to be 40% open space. The county's conservation subdivision guidelines mandates 40% open space for conservation subdivisions. While this is not a conservation subdivision, at least it is a consistent number that matches the only other ordinance that I'm aware of in Henry County that has an open space requirement. And so we would request that 50% get reduced to 40%. We certainly intend on developing it just like this, and we hope we can put 50%, but again, just being so early in the game, we feel like that would give us the flexibility we need so we didn't have to come back in front of you if we needed another 1%, of open space. The second change that we've requested was, again, and I mentioned this already, but item 4C requires a basketball court as part of the amenity center, and we'd like to change that to be a pavilion, an open-air pavilion, instead of the basketball court. But other than that, we're in perfect harmony and agreement with all the conditions that staff has recommended. And I'm happy to answer any questions you've got on this project.
Questions?
I have a question. I have a couple. Square footage of the townhomes and the single family?
The townhomes are
And while we're waiting, let me just state that the minimum home size for the single family is 1,800 square feet in this zoning district.
Oh, okay. All right. That's basically what I wanted to know.
So, as far, did you answer I'm sorry, the ordinance said it's 1,200 square foot for townhomes?
It's 1,800
for
single family.
For single family.
Right.
But, so our plan is, certainly we'll, for the smaller product is we'd like to keep the 1,800 square foot minimum and then 2,000 square foot minimum for the larger product, which is the 72 foot wide lots. We're again early in the game of selecting the final building product. The townhomes, I think we're in the, and I really, is the number, I mean. They're 14 to 1,800 square foot is the estimate for the townhomes. And again, that's a variable number, but in the ordinance is not crystal clear as to what the minimum is in that for the townhome portion.
Right.
And we weren't sure exactly what the minimum was, but
One other question. You mentioned that there is possibly a buildable space. Will that change that net density from 5.9 at all, or will it bump it up to the 6 scale?
no, sir. Under no circumstances will we be above 6 units per acre net.
Okay, all right. That's it, that's all I have.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, you may be seated. So at this time, we'll allow 10 minutes for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this case. Anyone that would like to speak in favor? No? Then we'll allow 10 minutes for anyone who would like to speak against this case in opposition. Oh, okay. Any other questions for applicant or staff?
No.
No? All right, well, let's call the case then.
Case number RZ-18-17. The Pacific Group of Atlanta, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for property located at 1007 Flippin Road in Land Lot 11 of the 6th District and Land Lot 6 of the 12th District. The property consists of 168.51 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential and townhome development. This property is located in Commission District 5 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to move forward with staff's approval of RZ 1817 for approval, excuse me.
And a second? And a second? All in favor? No? Motion carries. We can call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-18-09, North Ola Henry 163 LLC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence on sewer for property located on North Ola Road in Land Lot 111 and 112 of the 8th District. The property consists of 114.93 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision. The property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder.
Good evening, Chair and Board.
Good evening.
The applicant is requesting to rezone this property from RA and R1 to R2 on sewer so that they may develop a residential subdivision. A portion of this property on the western edge was rezoned in 2016 from RA to R1, which you'll see right here. The applicant is proposing 134 lots within the subdivision, which will have a net density of 2 dwelling units per acre. The request is supported by the future land use map, which you'll see on the overhead now, which shows low density, which calls for 1 to 2 dwelling units per net acre. With that being said, staff recommends approval of this rezoning request, and I'll put the following conditions on the overhead, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for staff? Okay. Yes, Mr. Rich.
Could you show us on the plat or on the map where the sanitary sewer line is in relation to this property?
I can put the survey and the site plan on the overhead, but I'm not sure if it shows on here. The applicant may have to show you that.
Okay, I didn't see a letter from the water authority, so that's why I'm asking.
There was one. Let me see. It says that water and sewage treatment are available and that sanitary sewer can be made available.
how far it would be extended, to reach this property. I know that, I think behind this property is some area that's zoned R3 where there's, sewer planned on that, but I just didn't know how close that it was, to this particular property.
I'm not sure. That wasn't stated.
Okay, well, maybe the representative would know. So.
The Water Authority requires that you tap into sewer if you're within 2,000 feet of a sewer line. So that's the standard, that's the requirement. So this track is at least within that 2,000-foot range, and which is one of the reasons why they're asking to rezone to R2S, the R2 requirement for sewer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay. We don't have any additional questions. We'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. My name's Dale Hall, and I'm with Falcon Design Consultants, speaking on behalf of Jeff Grant, the applicant. I'll be brief, as the staff report is very well written, and we like to commend staff and thank them for working with us on this project. We are looking to develop within the land use plan that shows this as 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre as an R2 subdivision on sewer. There was a question as to where the sewer is, and I can help with that. In this area right here, there's a sewer line that comes down with a manhole that stops right in this area. Now, it goes and continues all the way up to a pump station up along this road up in here. Now, this line might or might not be online yet because this area has some plans coming on forward, but the existing line is between our property line and the actual creek that runs along there. So we would be tapping into this existing line and coming in to serve our property. Sure. As I was stating, we are looking to develop this with 134 lots with a net density below 2 units per acre as allowed in the land use code. We have read the staff. We are aware that the staff does recommend approval of this request with 6 conditions that were shown earlier. I guess they're going to come up now. And we are in agreement with those conditions, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have now or at a later date after individuals speak on this.
Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
All right. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for those wishing to speak in favor of this case. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the case? Okay, if not, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name's Keith Rector. I live at 120 Timber Ridge. I've been in that area now for about 20 years. And we're back here to the same thing that we were here back in 16 for this land lot. They just finished the 9 homes that are on that in that front of North Ola Road there that have about 4,000 square feet, 35 to 4,000 square feet. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't go up and down that road. You can call the police department. It takes them an hour to get out. Not only that, there's 4,000 kids at that school, and you putting that many homes in that subdivision. That is not what you guys promised us back in 16. You told us that you'd put them on an acre lot. They would do what they said right here. These houses that this guy built, these 9 homes, were great homes. They ended up being 35 to 4,000 square foot homes. And these people that bought these homes just here recently, I'd be ticked. I would be ticked. They paid $400,000 for these homes. And you're wanting to put a house like that in behind them with all those homes. That is ridiculous. The traffic on North Ola Road, you can hardly get down that road as it is. And it's right near the school. Like I said, the police department can't even get down there. You can call them, and it takes them an hour to get there. And the policeman told me that there's only 2 policemen that patrol the Ola area, and that's it. I mean, I've been fighting this now for 4 or 5 years. First of all, that land one time was scattered with human waste, where we had pictures of it. You sent out the people to have it tested, and then you didn't build on it for 4 years. And then you've been telling some of these people that they carried the dirt out of there. That dirt was never moved from there. And I'm sure some of these other people would like to talk, because I don't want to take all the time, but this is ridiculous. Put them on an acre lot.
Hello, my name is Pam King, and I live on 47 the Farm Road, which is located directly north of this proposed development. My main concern is erosion control, runoff, loss of silt and soil. When they built those homes that he spoke about on North Ola Road, the erosion control was pretty poor. There were many incidences where after rain there was lots and lots of soil lost from the site. And my property borders Honey Creek, and that creek is very clear. I can see the bottom of it, you can see the fish, and I would hate to see it spoiled because of the construction activity on the proposed development. Even when you could see the activity on North Ola Road, they did a rather poor job, and I kind of fear that they will do an even worse job when you can't see it from the road. And I do have a question as far as sampling. Does the county do sampling of the water in the stream before and during construction?
No, that would be the Water Authority.
The Water Authority does that?
And they're a separate agency, and if it has anything to do with soil or some type of potential environmental contamination of the soil, you'll want to check with environmental health.
Okay. Okay, and I think that's all. Thank you. I'll let someone else talk.
My name is Gary Wursler. I live at 167 Wallseel Lane in Burnham Estates. One of the things that no one has mentioned, especially these developers, is how many rezoning pieces of land we have there. It's not only this parcel of land, but there's also one directly behind our house, and also an additional one over by Lake Dow, which brings it to be about 17 or 1,800 homes. Now, if you take that many homes with the traffic that we have right now, I don't think we're even going to be able to get out of our houses due to the fact that you're talking 1 to 2 cars, 1.5 per house, and you're going to get on North Ola Road from my house to school. We have a 15-year-old boy going to the high school at Ola. It takes us 30 minutes to go 1.5 miles, and you're wanting to put 17 to 1,800 homes in that 5 square mile radius that there's absolutely no way to get anywhere in the morning for traffic. Additionally, I want to say thank you for the small signs that was put out for this hearing. The one prior to, for the one over at Lake Dow, of course that road is closed because we have erosion from the lake that we can't drive through there anymore, so no one can see that sign for the previous rezoning. I was driving by and stopped at the stop sign, and I saw the sign. I said, wait a minute, let me go back and take a picture of it because I can't see that well. And then I blew it up and I said, well, goodness, they've got more rezoning for additional properties here. So in the future, the first one that we had at the high school for the one behind the house, There was so many people there that it was unbelievable, and the reason is because they had flyers that went to each home and alerted these people that they were having a meeting to rezone. And that was a total fiasco, and Gary, the commissioner, was there sitting next to me, and I said, so who do we need to fire to get this declined, because they haven't even looked at the roads, they haven't looked at the school systems, they haven't looked at just the grocery stores, etc. When you bring in all these homes, somebody needs to take a serious look at it and say, we need to provide the surrounding area all these amenities that we do not have right now. Especially coming up here on 81, there was bumper-to-bumper traffic coming into towards our house. You know how bad it is, and we don't even have any roads. We can come out front here, and there is a 4-lane road out front here that gets to this commissioner's office, and going out there to our house, there is not but a single lane. I think we need to take a look at all these roads first and focus on them before we get all these other people coming in here that can't even get to work.
Good evening, board members. Good evening. I'm Dennis Grosclose. I live at 47 Farm Road. Pam King is my wife, and I'd just like to let you know she is a civil engineer, an engineer, and she just recently completed soil erosion training to add to her professional credentials. There were a lot of people here tonight, as you can tell. You guys do this all the time, and we all want to thank you for your time tonight. We bought our house on 47th Farm Road a few years ago. We lived in a nice community where Susan King lives. We liked our community, but we wanted more. We wanted a bigger house. We wanted land. We wanted to be able to build a barn behind the house for a workshop, and we got all that. And as you know, anybody that owns a home, it's a lifetime investment. It's probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, not just for people on Farm Road. No matter where you live, your home is going to be your biggest investment. By downgrading the zoning on this from RA to R2, and by putting 2 houses in at 1,700 square feet, I think we can be guaranteed that the selling point of these properties is going to be far below the appraised value of all homes nearby, and thereby all homeowners in that area currently in RA zoning are going to see a significant depreciation in their home's value. And I would hope that the board would consider this and maybe ask the builder to reconsider the size, or maybe the staff would reconsider going from R2 maybe back to RA, or some other conditions to mitigate the impact on the value of the properties. These homes are going to diminish our property values for all of us. And like I said, you know, your home is your lifetime investment. I mean, you know, it's something you want to leave your kids. You don't want to leave your kids a home whose value has been eroded because of this. The other thing I'd like to consider, my wife failed to address the issue of green space and water flow coming off this area. When I was in Jodico Station, I was president of the HOA. We had several homeowners come to me about flooding on their property, and they were directly across from the retention pond. And I called the water division out there. They looked at the property, and they said that the retention pond was built according to standards, and it did what it was supposed to do. The problem is, it still flooded those properties behind there. My property's eastern edge is Honey Creek, and as my wife said, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's nice to be able to go down there and hang out by the creek for a while.
Thank you, sir. We've exhausted the 10-minute slot for speaking, but
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we hope that you will consider this and amend the rezoning. Thank you.
Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Will the applicant come forward, please?
Okay, I would like to see if staff would, put on the screen the proposed conditions in their report.
Yes, sir. That's what's on the screen there.
Oh, all right. Okay, they're there. All right, so everybody's had a chance to look at those, and so, all right, thank you.
Any additional questions, Mr. Richard?
No.
Okay. I do have one question for staff, or maybe even the applicant. Are we actually doubling the number of properties that would be going into this space based on it? Are you? Yes. Please let me emphasize something. We have to maintain some order here. We've heard the clapping, and now it's time to address the questions from the applicant.
Give us more time. We would like, there's other people that would like to say something,
But-
and we can't say it all. That's just 10 minutes doesn't give us enough time to say what we want to say to you.
Okay, and that's what has been allotted, and I ask that there be no further outbursts within the meeting. Again, for the applicant, can you explain the number of properties that's actually going into this space?
The future land use plan that has been adopted by the Board of Commissioners allows for a low-density development with 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. This layout as proposed and as will be developed will meet that requirement, being 2 units per acre or less. It will not be over that, which it will not be over that plan has been adopted by the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
For this area.
And question for staff, based on the requirements here, he would have to meet all of these requirements in order to move forward?
The conditions?
Yes.
He would have to meet the conditions based on the development of the property. So as the property is developed, certain conditions would be met. But yes, eventually they will all have to be met.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Well, maybe for staff. The traffic impact study on this particular request, any thoughts about how long that might take?
I'm not sure how long that takes. We don't have a DOT representative, but I'm not sure if Dante might be able to answer that.
No, I don't have an answer to that. They just kind of vary. It just depends, and it will be subject to whomever the applicant or the representing consultant who they procure for that analysis or study. But it is a required condition. As a matter of fact, condition number 1 states it.
I would like to comment on that if at all
Yeah,
possible.
well, that's because I know that's a huge concern. I'm just wondering, it's one thing to say, let's do a traffic impact study, and it may come back and say, yeah, it's going to really ball up traffic over there permanently, indefinitely, perpetually, but it's still okay. I mean, the traffic impact study, depending on the results, I mean, is that going to have an impact on the request? I mean, if we
Certain
approve-
things may be required, like decel lanes, things like that, and that kind of information will come out of
I
the
see.
study.
So he'll come back to you after the study is done?
Not necessarily planning, but
Okay.
DOT, and once he submits plans,
I
he'll have to
see.
show that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the plan as proposed presently has 2 entrances into, or entrances and exits onto North Ola Road, so there's 2 access points. And additionally, what is standard in development is you'll get your zoning, and then when you go to development stage, you'll have your traffic impact study, which should be completed, which will require certain things, ingress lanes, traffic, things at intersections. All those will be required at the time of development. And there's also additional codes that are written within the Henry County Department of Transportation standards that will be required for this development and any other development that's proposed.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant? Any additional questions for staff? Okay, you may be seated, sir. If there's no additional questions at this time, we'd like to call the case.
Case number RZ-18-09, North Ola Henry 163 LLC of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence on sewer for property located on North Ola Road and land lot 111 and 112 of the 8th District. The property consists of 114.93 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision. The property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mrs. Julie Yoder, Planner 2.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion with a couple of additions to the to what the staff has listed. I'm going to add a condition that the minimum heated floor area for homes in this subdivision shall be 2,400 square feet heated area.
Mr. Richard, hold please. Let me say this. If there's additional outbursts during this session, we will have to ask you to be escorted out. Continue, Mr. Richard.
All right, the next condition to add concerning the traffic study, that it also be coordinated with current studies and improvements that are planned for Snapping Shoals Road.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
What is the motion for? To approve or?
It's to approve the R2 with the conditions that I added to the staff report.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Motion denied. Yes, thank you. Okay. I believe that's the last case. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So be it.